I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. We are under a severe thunderstorm watch and also a flash flood watch for slow-moving thunderstorms dropping heavy rainfall. Heavy rain that's creating flash flooding. We're seeing the effects of that across the metro area and also up in the Greeley area. It's been unbelievable, the water that has been running down the roadways up there. Some vehicles have been trapped as well because of the rising water so quickly. That flash flood watch remains in effect until midnight. The flash flood warning for Greeley has canceled, but now we have a flash flood warning that remains in effect for portions of Jefferson County. 2 to 4 inches of rain, and the steering winds aloft are so weak that these storms are barely moving, and so they're not moving in, they're not moving out, and we're seeing additional rainfall already in some of those flood-prone areas. We've had reports of up to 4 inches of rain in downtown Greeley, the Greeley Stampede going on there, 1 to 3 inches of rain in the foothill areas west of town, and we're monitoring the flood threat on I-70 where they're cleaning up mudslides from a day ago. The tornado warning east of Pueblo has canceled out, but rain and severe thunderstorms are certainly a potential between now and about 9 o'clock tonight. We have a warming and drying trend heading into the upcoming holiday weekend with temperatures near 90 and just isolated thunderstorms on Saturday and Sunday, Kyle.
Got wild in Greeley this afternoon where they got 4 inches of rain in a bit more than an hour. Poor Mark Salinger got soaked up there, but the man is gracious enough to stand there and take a break from talking to folks in Greeley to tell us what he's seen and heard. Mark?
Yeah, the National Weather Service, Kyle, said 3 to 4 inches of rain fell here in Greeley in about an hour or so. What does that look like? It looks like this. Inches deep water. There were some people standing in it just a couple minutes ago, waist deep nearly, and there's cars that are like the one behind me all around town that are just submerged in water. I'm sure that these people either were trying to get somewhere, their windows are still down, so I imagine that it's still pretty wet in there. And it's also wet inside a lot of buildings in Greeley. We were inside a church earlier, just about an hour or so ago, and the water was pouring into their basement as well as their front door. They say that it just started pouring rain. It was like a wall of water that was coming down, and it just all started getting into the church there, and everything is extremely wet. They only had a small shop vacuum as well as what they usually use to clean the carpets, and they were going through little by little and trying to clear it all out. Kyle, there's so much flooding around here that police have blocked off a lot of the roads around Greeley. A lot of the flooding has receded now, but still on neighborhoods like this just outside downtown Greeley, there's a lot of water out here, Kyle.
All right. Appreciate it, Mark. Denver's chief elections officer is suggesting some changes around here. Democratic clerk Paul Lopez says Denver should either move its May elections to April in order to allow more time to get ballots out for the June runoffs, or, drumroll please, Denver could implement ranked choice voting. That's a system where voters don't just pick one candidate, but they rank their choices in order, and then it turns into an instant runoff until you get a final winner. New York City's notoriously bumbling elections division is making ranked choice voting look way more of a goat rodeo than it is. But look for critics to point to New York City's muddy mayoral election as proof of why ranked choice voting doesn't work. It's a bit like citing the Rockies as an example of why professional baseball shouldn't exist. Denver's 10-cent bag fee starts today. Our Marshall Zellinger found not every bag is equal under the law. It would appear that Marshall's getting ready for a bake sale or some kind of magic trick there in the newsroom. Marshall, what do I get if I pick what's under bag number 3?
Nothing, because that's not the trick. This is the trick. Follow the bag, which helmet is under, no. It may look like these are all similar items, you know, paper bags over here, plastic bags over here, but I found out today that not all bags are created equal. Even though I got all these at the grocery store, not all of them will cost you that equal 10-cent fee.
Will that be paper or plastic? Either way, it'll be 10 cents. Or will it?
I gotta grab my bags. I know they're doing that.
First of all, this isn't a King Soopers ordinance, it's a City of Denver ordinance. They just let us inside the store. So when you're at checkout, every time you fill one of these, it's 10 cents. But what you're filling it with, even though it sounds like plastic, feels like plastic, smells like plastic, does not cost 10 cents. From an environmental standpoint, is there a difference between the two?
No, there's not.
Grace RINK is Denver's chief climate officer.
We know that Denverites use at least 100 million plastic bags at checkout every year. And while we don't know exactly the number of produce bags, we know that it is dwarfed by the number of checkout bags.
Our bill was based on other programs around the state, the country, and the world, and they all exempt produce bags.
Denver City Councilwoman Kendra Black sponsored the bill, which passed in 2019. And like I said, charges 10 cents for every plastic or paper bag. Wait, not every.
Back at checkout, feels like paper. That feels like 10 cents. This sounds like paper, but it's not 10 cents.
Size matters in the ordinance. And so those smaller size, like lunch bag size bags, or the type of bag that you might get from a pharmacy, those are not included in the bag fee.
And it's not limited to grocery stores in Denver. It's all retail stores in the city.
Ace Hardware, Michael's, Nordstrom.
All the shops in the mall, it's most places where you would get a bag.
Remember, this is a Denver bag fee, not a suburb bag fee, though Boulder has had a 10-cent fee for grocery store checkout bags since 2013. The city keeps 6 cents for every bag, and that brings in about $250,000 a year. That adds up to 4 million bags purchased at checkout. Boulder tracked bag usage for the first 4 years and estimated it reduced disposable bag usage by 70%.
You're trying to guess how much I spent today just on bags. These were all free because I got them at the Glendale King Soopers, which does not have a bag fee, but graciously gave me these for props. Kyle, we've talked about, the retail areas that people don't think about, convenience stores, liquor stores. Those are going to be places where you're going to have to pay the extra 10 cents. I loved, I went to Cherry Creek Mall to look around and see how many people were carrying bags. The Lululemon bags, I saw a Louis Vuitton bag within the bag, so you've got 10 cents extra for that Louis Vuitton bag that costs a little bit more than 10 cents. The city will keep 6 cents of that. The retailer will keep 4 cents, but it's supposed to go toward offering you reusable bags or putting advertising up about the program that, hey, if you don't want to pay, come with your own bag.
I'm trying to picture the person who's leaving the Louis Vuitton store and they're like, would you like the extra 10-cent bag? And it's like, no, just throw that Louis Vuitton in my natural grocer's sack.
I wonder if anybody would walk out thinking, oh, I have to pay 10 extra cents, forget the sale altogether.
End of the day, though, Marshall, I mean, these syntaxes are not necessarily supposed to be bulletproof from every angle. The idea is to nudge people, nudge society in the direction that the government decides that people should go in.
And that's why there's not a charge on these. It's get people used to this first and change habits, and then perhaps it might go to this. Restaurants, so if you're going to McDonald's or fast food, you don't have to pay for the same type of paper bag that you would at the grocery store. That is exempt in the city of Denver. I asked about that, and again, it's the baby steps, and plus it's how you're going to take all the the burgers and fries and so just put it in my hand because I don't want to pay the extra 10 cents.
Watch me walk up to the King Soopers checkout with about 100 of those produce bags stocked with cereal boxes and everything else. Thank you, Marshall. Looks like Chaffee County leaders are not willing to get trampled by the concert promoter Live Nation, which we've told you sold more tickets than they were allowed for their big country show up there, and then basically just told Chaffee County they're going to have to deal with it. The county's now pushing back. The commissioners are telling organizers of the Seven Peaks Music Festival that they can either abide by capacity limits and noise ordinances or the concert's off. Live Nation says it sold 6,000 tickets to that three-day event in September and wants to sell even more, despite Chaffee County's 5,000-person event limit. Commissioners are calling Live Nation back before the board to answer for this in 2 weeks. Heads up that Next is preempted tomorrow night due to hockey, so I also wanted to give you an update on your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign one night early. You have raised almost $10,000 since yesterday for Celebrate EDU. They're a small nonprofit that serves young adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities across our state. Their goal is to try and chip away at the overwhelming 80% unemployment rate in that community. So there are Coloradans who really want to work. They want to be out there part of the workforce, but they need a little extra job training. And then on top of that, Celebrate EDU also provides specific entrepreneurship training so that their students can then start their own small businesses based on their passions. Text thanks to 303-871-1491, and I'll send you that link to join me and a bunch of other Next viewers, and all chipping in a little bit to make an enormous difference for those Coloradans with intellectual and developmental disabilities who just want a chance at the productivity, the purpose, and the sense of community that comes from work.
It's still a river, even without water in it.
Today, a drought emergency is declared in parts of Colorado. While our neighbors in Grand County like the returning visitors, they could do without the question.
They say, oh, we heard about the fire. Where can we go see burned down houses? And our response is, don't.
The locals have come up with a pretty ingenious solution. We'll see it next. As it pours today on the Front Range, the governor's declared a drought emergency in western Colorado. The Dolores River in southwest Colorado is dry in places, as in no water flowing in the riverbed. It's the river we told you about last week, where wildlife workers asked people not to fish there because low flows and hot water have fish just trying to survive. No fish there. The USGS tracks the flows, and near Bedrock, Colorado, west of Nucla by the Utah border, the river is flowing at 0 cubic feet per second. Been like that much of the last week, other than a brief spike on June 27th. The 30-day picture for flows in the Dolores is not much more encouraging. Started June running about 7 cubic feet per second. Typical for that area this time of year is 66 cubic feet per second. The Colorado River District says the Dolores is running better where it meets the San Miguel. Near Gateway, stream flows at 245 cubic feet, but that's about a third of its normal flow. The locals in Grand County are happy to have visitors back, though they're getting sick of answering the same, often traumatic question about the wildfire that burned through last fall. There are people asking for directions to visit the burned out neighborhoods in Grand Lake. Mark Salinger shows us the local solution.
In a town of less than 500,
It's a huge part of our recovery from the fire.
the locals have a plea for the tourists.
This isn't something that just happened and is over. It's reoccurring.
Grand Lake welcomes all the visitors, but asks that they pack something that doesn't fit in a suitcase.
We're in that healing process, and we will be for quite some time.
Compassion. That's all locals like Emily Hagen are asking for. Compassion. 8 months after the East Troublesome fire left scars on the hillside and places much deeper.
And the reality is, we're not okay. We will be. But this is still really new. This is still really raw.
Yep. How are you doing?
Good.
Welcome to the East Troublesome Museum.
Thank you.
The evening of October 21st, 2020 is still difficult to talk about.
I didn't think it was going to hit Grand Lake. Nobody did.
Every visitor brings life back to town.
How are you guys doing?
Some questions also bring trauma.
They say, oh, we heard about the fire. Where can we go see burned down houses? And our response is, don't.
Emily is the director of the Grand Lake Chamber of Commerce.
I got really tired answering questions about the fire constantly because it really does weigh on you quickly. And
Her house survived, yet she knows about so many that didn't.
this is a place, if they want to see the human loss, this is where they can come.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the photographer who did all the pictures here, and Emily and I are going to put together the show.
Without Tom Cooper, we might not fully understand the power of the fire. The Troublesome Stories Gallery opened this week.
It's frightening, and like it scorches the ground to the point where you wonder if anything's going to come through it.
In a room full of charred memories and painful moments, locals find refuge from the questions, and visitors find answers.
I want people to see that this is what fire does.
Tom is a photojournalist and owner of LIGHTBOX Images. He took 9,000 pictures the day the flames spread more than 100,000 acres in Grand County.
It's a humbling thing to see this. And
now, they give locals a place to point tourists when they just can't talk about the trauma anymore.
Like, I look back at a lot of these pictures that I shot, and some of them I don't even remember taking, because it's just a whirlwind of just snapping and documenting and trying to stay safe.
But this is what it looked like when we left. Our visitors are a huge part of our recovery here, that we want them here, that we want to celebrate Grand Lake with them. We're just asking that they also are easy on us because we're still raw.
Raw from the fire and a year of coming to terms with the loss.
We already called the kids and had a good cry that our place was gone. And
thanks, guys.
Ready for more visitors.
You bet.
And now, all their questions.
Thank you, guys.
For next, I'm Mark Salinger.
No, they did good work, didn't they? Thanks.
What a really, really smart idea. Again, they want folks to come up to Grand Lake and Grand County. They just asked for that space. Folks in Grand Lake told Mark that they are expecting their largest crowd of out-of-towners since the fire to come in for this coming holiday weekend.
It's a long way from Colorado to where the whales are, but a Coloradan is listening to them closely, and what she hears is leading research in that field. And there is a well-placed hydrant if there's ever a car fire, you know, a car fire started by, say, a car hitting the fire hydrant in the middle of the street. That's next.
Big 4th of July fireworks show in Denver's off, not because of fire danger, it's a staffing problem. Elish Garden says it doesn't have the people to pull off the show. They posted the news online today. So no America booms at Elish's this year while they're under modified hours with a reduced staff. Elish's will still open at 10:30 on the morning of the 4th, just no snap, crackle, and patriotic pop that night. Colorado seems to be a strange place for one to be in the business of studying whales. Been here 15 years, never seen a single one. But one of the world's leading researchers into whale communication works at MSU Denver. Biologist Leanna Matthews is featured in a new Apple TV documentary looking at the complex way that whales communicate. We asked her about her work studying sea life from 5,200 feet above.
Yeah, I can look out my window and see my very Colorado garden with my very Colorado plants and native species. And in my ears, I'm listening to the sounds of the ocean in Alaska. My name is Leanna Matthews. I am a biology professor and I teach biology labs. I have quite a bit of experience with marine mammal acoustic communication in general. To listen to whales, we record their sounds underwater and then we play those recordings back to ourselves. A lot of the time when I am collecting this data, I am in the field collecting the data. So I pack my bags and I go to Alaska and I collect this data. But the really interesting thing about studying sound is that you don't necessarily have to be there to record the sound. If you have the right collaborators and colleagues in the right places, I can stay here in Colorado and my collaborators in Alaska can put that piece of equipment in the water and press record and record that data for me. Usually I'm at my dining room table and my 3 dogs are in the living room. That's usually where I am when I'm looking at this data and listening to this data. I would love for people in the landlocked state to think about the whales a bit more often. It's a bit out of sight, out of mind, right? We never see whales in Colorado, so it's a bit hard to put them at the forefront of your minds. But even though we don't see them and see the ocean outside of our window and the waves crashing ashore and a humpback whale breaching off the coast, just because we don't see that outside our window doesn't mean we should appreciate it any less.
Didn't think it could be a job here. Anything out of place that catches the keen eye of next viewers, we'll chase after, which is how we ended up on the trail of a rogue fire hydrant today. That and your feedback next. It is July 1st, not April 1st, but you would not know that from the fire hydrant in the middle of the street. Some prank here. Somebody moved this dog urinal right into the middle of traffic in the tech center. Hydrant's clearly not hooked up and ready to hydro. It's just sitting there. We asked Denver Water what was up with this, and they dispatched somebody down there to pick up the stray hydrant. Not sure how often this happens. Not sure we need to spend a lot of time talking about it, but you know, it's just one of life's little mysteries. Everybody wants to talk about 2 things this afternoon. You want to talk about the rain, and you want to talk about bag fees. Rain first. Sorry, blown away by the downpour on the Front Range. She's been here 41 years, said never seen this. Called it Florida rain. I've never lived in Florida, so I don't know what Florida rain is. And Jan says, forget the Greeley Stampede. It's going to be a swim meet. Might just be a little muddy this year. And a few of you asked whether the bag fee will be on the honor system if you do self-checkout. It will. So question is, do you have any honor?